Welcome to Healthy Talk with Boone County Hospital, empowering your wellness one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Rachel Mann, and today we have a very special guest with us who is dedicated to supporting mothers and babies on their breastfeeding journey. Please join me in welcoming Jamie Clayton, IBCLC Lactation and Breastfeeding Consultant here at Boone County Hospital. With years of experience in helping mothers and babies on their breastfeeding journey, we welcome Jamie, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you on our very first podcast. I'm a little nervous, but we're going to get through it. Let's start with your journey in this field. Could you tell us a little bit about what led you to become a lactation and breastfeeding consultant?
Sure. I had my first child about 23 years ago and really did not have a good breastfeeding experience at that hospital. So then I was always kind of interested in lactation. I became a nurse about 10 years ago and worked in OB and helped with breastfeeding on the OB floor. And then 2 years ago, sat for the IBCLC exam and passed.
Yay! It's always fun when journeys in life bring us to find something that we're passionate about and love to do. Personal experiences for all of us obviously drive so much of our work impact and what we do. So what does a typical day as your role as a lactation consultant look like?
Here at Boone County Hospital, our department is pretty small, and I'm one of the OB nurses as well. So
you get to wear many hats,
yes,
too.
Yes. So, all of our nurses are trained in lactation supports, but if there's something that's a little bit different or a mother's having maybe something a little bit more challenging going on, then they'll have me go and speak with her.
Gotcha. So they call you if they need more support. So having your certifications, what are some things that you can help in areas where our regular OB staff might not have your expertise?
So like maybe if baby is having a really hard time latching on, they might need to be evaluated for like a tongue tie. If mom has maybe flat nipples or inverted nipples, that might be an extra challenge they might have. Just things like that. Most of the time, they're very simple fixes.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
So every mom's journey is different, obviously. What are some things that you maybe do or have found yourself needing to do to tailor your guidance for their specific needs?
Oh, there's all sorts of things. You want to kind of take a little bit of their history. If this is their first baby, if it's not their first baby, is it the first baby they have breastfed? How are their nipples? Is the baby a full-term baby? Is it a little early? Because sometimes those babies that are just a few weeks early can sometimes be little stinkers when it comes to eating. So you just kind of take all that into account.
I know breastfeeding in general kind of comes with its own set of hurdles, and you kind of just talked about things that you can do, but what about new moms when they feel uncertain about breastfeeding or postpartum depression? I mean, add another thing on top of that. How do you help them build their confidence in breastfeeding?
We watch them very closely while they're at the hospital. So each shift, we want to make sure we see at least one breastfeeding session to make sure that the latch is good, and we point out all the things that they're doing correctly. We want to teach them, the signs of a good latch, the signs that the babies are hungry, the signs that the baby's getting enough to eat, and then just really encourage them to trust in their bodies and know that, they're doing what they're made to do.
Self-empowerment.
Yeah.
So you watch them do a session here and then they go home. I know with my milk hardly came in while I was in the hospital. And then it's kind of like a whole new ball game when you get home. So encountering unexpected difficulties at home while breastfeeding, can they talk to you? Can they come back if they have problems?
Of course. So any patient can call 24/7 with any questions about breastfeeding. If I'm not here, then they'll get a hold of me at some point, usually the next day if it's in the middle of the night or whatnot. They can always come in for breastfeeding help, and it's free of charge.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked about difficulties, but how do you celebrate or the joy you get maybe out of seeing someone who has struggled with something and then reaching a little milestone of accomplishment? Do you have a story or anything, a personal experience?
Yeah, I had one mom that I really stands out. And she was a very young mom, but she really wanted to breastfeed her baby and didn't do so well while we were in the hospital and went home. And then a few days later came back in just for some breastfeeding help, and her nipples were so damaged. And I sat down with her, had her nurse her baby to show me what she was doing, and all it was just a simple repositioning of the baby, barely moving this baby, and the latch was so much better. She said she didn't have pain, and she went on to breastfeed for quite some time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You learn so much when you're here in the hospital. We're just throwing information at you about you and your baby. And then you go home and your milk comes in and you're like, we didn't cover this. I tell everyone who's interested in trying breastfeeding, you might do it once right after the baby's born and you're like, it's not for me. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Any breast milk from a few drops to months worth is fantastic for your baby, and we're just here to support you whichever way you choose to feed your baby. We're not going to judge you if you decide breastfeeding is not for you. And sometimes you need to choose, yourself and your own mental health over breastfeeding if it's causing you a lot of stress.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any common myths or misconceptions about breastfeeding that you encounter or that you've heard, and how would you debunk them?
A lot of women think that they don't make enough milk for their baby. And that's actually very rare occurrence if they get a good start right after delivery. It's so important. We really encourage skin to skin for at least the first hour after delivery, a vaginal or cesarean. And that really helps baby transition to being outside world, and it helps regulate their temperature and blood sugars. And then they're right there when they start acting hungry and wanting to root around. There's the breast right there. And that's so important to get that good latch in those first few breastfeeding sessions in to help establish what your milk supply is going to be on, months later. So, yeah, usually moms can certainly make enough milk for their babies. Then they have the growth spurts where the babies want to nurse all the time, and they think, again, they're not making enough milk, and you will.
Body knows what to do.
Yes.
I know when I had my second, I could not believe how fast my milk came in. It was insane. And I remember calling because I gave birth at Boone County Hospital, and I called and I'm like, what's wrong? They weren't like this. What's going on? I'm going to explode. Is something wrong with me? Do I need to come in? And just very reassuring hearing, no, it's normal. It's fine. But it can be a eye opener when you go from what happened with your first kid to second, third, or fourth. Switching gears a bit, we're living in digital age now, especially with COVID. We've seen technology transform a lot. We've seen this rise of virtual interactions. You did talk about phone. Have you done any remote support?
I'd be willing to. I am terrible when it comes to technology. So I can work
Someone else just set it up for you.
Yes.
And here, I'll talk to you.
But they would have to be right there because I can't touch any buttons. But yeah, I'd be certainly willing to do that.
But the blessing of living in a small town also is it's close. We're right here for the people of Boone County who need us. And it's pretty easy to get, as opposed to if you're living in Boone and your lactation consultant is in Des Moines, that's not convenient.
No.
Looking ahead with technology on the rise, what do you envision for the future of lactation and breastfeeding?
When I had my children, we didn't have the hands free. So that is a fantastic
invention.
Just
with my last kid had the ones that are battery powered.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to plug into the wall anymore. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, people are pumping on the way to work. And
they're so quiet now. You hardly hear them.
Yeah.
Or being able to calculate stuff on your phones.
Yeah.
With my second, I didn't breastfeed as much. I'm more pumped. And it was so cool just to see how much I had made in a day. When you're breastfeeding, they're getting enough, but if you're
have no
in
idea
the curiosity
how much it is.
of wondering how much, you don't know. So it'd be cool if they had a thing you could put on that even if they were nursing, kept track. Someday we'll have that, I'm sure. Okay, wrapping up, what is a message or a piece of advice you'd like to leave for our listeners?
Breastfeeding is great. It's great for the moms. It's great for the babies. Every day they're finding new benefits for both with breastfeeding. I want every mom to be able to experience a successful breastfeeding journey because it's wonderful when it happens.
And it makes a big difference, I feel like you said, your first experience was not good.
No.
But then that can put you off from ever wanting to try again.
Yeah.
And it does make such a big difference when you have the right people there to help you. And like you said, it is a beautiful moment for you, moment for baby.
And sometimes in the first few days, it is hard work.
Yes.
So just don't give up.
Don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Keep trying. You can do it.
You can.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights into the world of lactation and breastfeeding.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of Healthy Talk with BCH. Whether you're a new mother or a supporter seeking professional lactation support, it can make all the difference on your breastfeeding journey. We'll be back soon with more Healthy Talk. Until then, stay informed, stay healthy, and keep the conversation going with Healthy Talk.